So without further ado, let's bring up the mayor. I'll read a little bit about her first. On December 4th, 2017, Vi Lyles was sworn in as the 59th mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. As a Democratic leader, she is known for her strong commitment toward creating jobs, expanding affordable housing options, and supporting life in livable neighborhoods. Mayor Lyles received a bachelor's degree in political science from Queen's University and a master's degree in public administration from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Under her leadership, and the city of Charlotte continues to grow as a center for commerce, culture, and diversity. Ladies, please put your hands together as we welcome Mayor Vi Lyles. Come on up, come on up. I was wondering where the music was. Go Vi, go Vi, go Vi. Go. She's being shy. All right, so as there, we got it. We got mics on. Is your mic on?
Yes, I think so.
All right, we're good.
Right?
We're good.
Okay.
All right, so I have a list full of questions, and these are questions that a lot of you ladies kind of put together just to kind of guide us in a direction. But at any time that you have a question or comment, just kind of, either put it on your table or kind of wave your hand a little bit, and we'll make sure we come and grab it from you. Do you want to dive in, or do you have any comments that you want to start off with?
You go. Let's dive in. I mean, this is about you guys, not about me necessarily. So let's have it.
She said, I ain't scared. Let's do it. All right, first question for today. So one of the things that we encourage women to do is to know their value, know their worth. So when did you grab hold of your value, and also what value do you bring to the table?
So it's really interesting to think about what value you have, because I think it depends on where you are in your life, that you have the ability to change and grow and begin to take on new things. If someone had told me 20 years ago that I'd be seeing myself sitting in the mayor's chair, it would not have occurred to me. But I've always known I had value, no matter what step along the way. People talk about work-life balance. I like to think of it as work-life integration, because it's never going to be balanced, ladies. There are going to be days that you have to go and pick up a kid from daycare that you never even thought about, or your manager just walks in and gives you a task, and daycare is like only 5 minutes before closing. You have to figure these things out. So I love hearing the story of the candles, because you started when your children were 5 and 6, and I can imagine right now they must be 15 and 16, and they have learned so much from just your example, and that's a really fabulous thing. So value. Today, my value is about collaboration. As mayor, you have to get many people to come together and first talk about what problem are you trying to solve. Many people come to me every day with what to do, and I have to always ask them, tell me why. The value of asking someone, what do you think, is a tremendous gift. People feel valued when you ask them about themselves, about their hopes and their dreams. And when you know those things about people, then you can put all of that together. And right now, as mayor, I'm putting together a plan for our city where everyone has a chance to live and work. And it's because I've spent time talking to people about the inability to get a job in our city, the inability to afford a place to live. And so when you do that and hear it, then you know your value is in building a plan that we can all agree upon to change the world. And you may not think you're changing the world right now, but every effort that you take in collaboration with your team, with your family, you are changing the world. Someone's world is being touched, and you can do that. And so that's what my value is right now.
What was that decision-making process like for you and your family when you guys had the conversation at the table to actually say yes and run for mayor?
Wow, that's a tough one for me. And I want to say this because I don't know that I really thought about running for mayor. I mean, really, I don't know that I thought about it. I've served on the city council for 2 terms, and I just thought my job was to get us to line up in a way that we could make a difference. So I actually literally ran the first time because I was reading in the newspaper about the streetcar. And everybody was sniping at each other. Well, it's not going to happen. It costs too much money. It's not this and that. But I knew that we would have to get on board because you can't have a streetcar that only goes 2 blocks. And so I had to come together with all of the people that do transportation, and now we have a streetcar that's going to go all the way to Johnson C. Smith, and it's going to come down past Hawthorne. We still have another step to go, and we'll figure that out too. But when you ask me why run for mayor, it was the Keith Lamont Scott shooting that happened. And the idea that our city would actually have that kind of uprising, for me at the time, I couldn't imagine. But when I look back and think about what was happening in Ferguson, what was happening in Baltimore, we were there. We were at that same crossroad of how do we deal with something that's really real to a number of people in this community, and how do we come out of it? I actually sat down and said, what would make a difference? And so we began to work. I worked on a letter. It was a 7-point plan that I provided to my colleagues on the city council. Ultimately, they adopted 4 of those major steps collectively, and it was a letter to the community that said, 1, we would look at our police policies and make sure that they were done without racial bias, gender bias, or sexual orientation bias. That we would also look very much at how we engage the community in our work. That we would build housing for people. I went out to the place where Keith Lamont was shot the day after the shooting, and I looked at the neighborhood, and I thought, is this a neighborhood that would actually ever believe in anything that government says about Charlotte? It wasn't. So we had to create a change around affordable housing, and we had to make it so that everyone could have a place to live. And then the final thing that I thought about is that when you have people that don't believe in their value, their worth, it's often because they lack the ability to contribute their abilities in a work situation. When I was growing up, I tell people, you know, I grew up in the segregated South, and on my block, it was just really, it was a block because, of course, we lived in a neighborhood where there was a highway, a white community, and then 1 block of black families, basically. My dad had a construction business. Next door lived a lawyer who became a federal judge and actually helped Harvey Gantt get into Clemson University. But right next door to that was the upholstery, the drapery maker lady, teachers, the guy that was, you know, worked for the post office, the guy with the barbecue joint. And every day that I got up, every house in that neighborhood was moving because they were going to work. I always had that example of what work was. There are many people in this generation living in our city right now that don't know the value of work. So we began a program. Ron Leeper, who runs Leeper Construction, I think y'all know him a little bit around here. He came and he and I went out and we went to businesses and said, if we train people in construction, will you hire them at $11 an hour? Will you pay just a little bit more than minimum wage? And we got about 20 businesses to agree to that. We went to Goodwill and we went to Urban League and they all agreed to it. Today that program has successfully graduated 70% of the people in it. They're making $22 an hour. That's now 3 years later. That's the kind of thing that makes me connect what I do every day to make the city a better place, and I'm really, really proud to be our mayor now, because I do believe the city is going to be the example for the rest of our country that we're going to tackle tough issues in a systematic way and make a difference in people's lives.
Wow, thank you for that. Wow, that was powerful. So it was almost a situation really sparked that and encouraged you and inspired you to step up and say, there's an issue here, let me start to formulate a plan. So it wasn't even so much that you saw yourself in that position. You just said, I'm willing to go out and have these conversations and start getting the ball rolling. Do you have encouragement for the ladies here that may, they look around, they're seeing some of the same issues that you're seeing? What would you encourage them to do about taking that first step?
I would always say, never be afraid to take the first step. There's never a guarantee of success. There are many failures that I can talk about that resonate with me. But if you don't take the first step, how do you know to learn from failure? Every failure is an opportunity to examine. When we did the RNC, it was not a very comfortable place for me. When we accepted hosting the Republican National Convention, I know the people in this room that work in the facilities part, you probably wouldn't support me anyway because of the convention coming. But it's going to be great for our city. But at the end of the day, when we went from a 10-1 vote to host the committee to a 6-5 vote, I had to ask myself, what changed? What was different? Every time something like that happens, I go back and say, what would I do differently? Now, for the convention, I would have actually worked harder on letting them know what a convention means. I worked on the 2012 convention when Obama was nominated, and I just thought people got it, and they didn't. They were just listening to me and raising their hands, and I should have probed a little bit deeper. Why do you believe in doing this? Do you believe this is something that we should do? Now, we're going to do a good job with it, but that's the kind of question. When you step out and it doesn't quite go your way, go back and say, how did I contribute to that? What would I do differently? And I think usually that works.
What will be the biggest challenge for the generation of women that are coming behind you? That was a little deep.
That is
As she gets her water, ladies, you do have notes, a note section here for you. And also, any questions, definitely write down questions and comments because we do want to invite you into the conversation as well. But what will be the biggest challenge that you foresee in the generation of women coming behind you?
I think the challenge is really your opportunity. We are doing a lot of work around workforce analysis and what do we need for people to be successful in the future in the workplace. So think about this. In the professional schools of business and finance, the top 10% of graduates are women. Medicine, law, the same thing. Top 10% are women. And in almost every case, you're going to be coming out and you're going to be looked at as the success of the future. And you're going to have some challenges. I think that people think that you can be just like the guy that came before you. And I think that you're going to try hard to be just like that guy. But you're not. There is a difference in the way women approach work, and you should be proud of that. Because companies that have women on their board of directors in major decision-making jobs do much better with a higher profit margin than those that are single-gender men, boards and authorities and management. So I think always remember that you bring something to the table with your skills that you've learned from whatever your work experience, that when you become a manager, don't forget that. Now, I think there's another challenge for us as women. Just think about it. Fast forward, your generation will come and people are going to expect you to do all of this. They're not going to give you benefits. I don't think this country is going to be successful until we change the benefits around work and family leave. We want to have a country that's growing. And when you decide that you want to start a family, I think that business has got to figure it out because they'll not be able to keep women. There's data that already shows that in a lot of companies, you'll work 8 years, you'll start a family, and you will quit because the company is not responsive to you. And what the company will eventually realize is it costs them more to recruit and hire a new person to take your job than to give you 12 weeks of family leave. That should also apply to the person that's with you at the time. So I think you're going to have to really push for any place that you are working to show the value that you bring, often those soft skill values with your hard skill values, but you're going to have to push them to say, we need to recognize that child care and elder care are the most important services or benefits that a company can provide, and keep the workforce that you're in.
Now this one definitely applies to this room. There's so many different departments here today for lunch. How can women continually support and raise up each other as both coworkers and even as supervisors?
So I'm going to tell a story about the beginning of my career. I actually worked for the city before I became mayor, and I was the only African-American woman in my department, and we were in charge of money, budgeting and finance, right? In the parks area, there was one black woman in administration, on and on and on, you get the picture. So fast forward to today, I had a group of women that surrounded me for 35 years, and we still have lunch today. Because what I was doing in one department impacted what was going on in another department. Now, I know that that's the way this works in no matter what organization you're in. So we would meet every Friday. We were called the Lunch Bunch for ourselves. They had another nickname for us. It was something like Black Women in Charge, meet on Friday, something like that. I don't remember exactly how they put it. But there were a lot of people that looked at us as being powerful within the organization because we supported each other. If I knew that there was going to be a freeze in hiring, I would tell my friend in Parks, you need to start getting ready for it. This is what I would suggest. And then when she saw that people were talking about things that I needed to know, she brought them forward to us. So that's what makes the difference. You have to find your sister friends right now. They need to cross over, and we need to support each other. That doesn't always mean it's going to go smoothly, but if you keep in mind that your success is bonded with someone else's success, you will figure that out. And I can almost tell you the 5 women today, if I called them up today and said, I need you, they'd show up on my doorstep.
What was, and I know who wrote this question, what was a daring thing that you have done in your career?
Oh my gosh.
It made you dare greatly. I'm assuming that's where it's coming from.
So I know a lot of you take for granted some of the good things about Charlotte today. But when I was just starting my career, we were doing urban renewal. All of this was being torn down because of the neighborhoods had shotgun houses. There wasn't this, beautiful First Ward neighborhood that you see now. And there was a judge, a very strong federal judge, James McMillan, and he said that the city would have to compensate for all the urban renewal projects that we had been doing. And believe me, I was fairly new to the city. I had gotten my degree. I knew a lot about capital financing, and nobody wanted to touch that project. And I said, I'll do it. I'll work on this project. I stepped up and took on something because everyone was afraid. It was new, it was different. And in the end, First Ward looks different today. How many of you know that in these apartments down the street, a third of those folks are paying under $400 a month for rent. A third are paying a subsidized rent, like maybe 60% of the cost of rent, and then a third are paying market value. When I look at this city, there are projects that I feel like I connect to and with because I raised my hand when no one else was doing it. Now, that's probably not greatness, but it's commitment to me. It's commitment to equality, racial equity. Those words weren't used back then, basically, all I was saying is those neighborhoods have been torn down, we've got to rebuild them, and I'm going to help do it.
That's good. What is the best advice you've ever received that you could share with the women of HSE? Best advice.
So my mother told me this. It gives me a little bit of a chill. I went to Queens when it was a women's college, and I was in the first class of 5 black women going to Queens. And Queens used to be kind of like a sister school with, you know, Salem and Randolph-Macon. And a lot of women went there for 2 years, and then they went someplace else because they would have 2 years of a women's education, and then they'd go find a husband at a co-ed school. So that was the whole plan, 2 years here and then whatever. And my freshman year was very hard. There were 5 black women, and they met all over the summer about how to integrate us, and they made a decision that 2 black women would room together, and the 3rd woman had to room by herself, just because of her race. I was not happy at Queens when I got there. And I went home for a break, and I told my mom, this isn't for me. I miss everything about being black and having friends and having people around me that care about me. And my mother looked me straight in the eye and said, we don't quit. I got my fanny back on the bus and came to Charlotte. We don't quit. We might stumble, we might fall, but we get up and we keep going. And that advice helped me so many ways, because there are going to be times that you feel like, really? I have to do this? When you really just want to go home and put your head under the covers and turn on some TV show that makes you cry, like on the Hallmark Channel. But remember, when you do that, do it fast, get it over with, and get back up, because we don't quit.
That's good. Some of us probably needed to hear that this week, so thank you for that. Some fun stuff now, and then ladies, then I'm turning over to you for some questions that you've written down. Can you share with us a fun thing on your bucket list? Bucket list item.
So I have retired from 2 jobs already, and I bought that book, 1,000 Places to Go, and I've probably done 1% of them. I would love to go to Italy and just walk and work and eat. Walk my way through eating. That's what I would like to do. There are so many places that I would like to have. But I will say the thing on my bucket list that's most important to me, I have 3 grandbabies. They're the most beautiful grandbabies in the world. And my bucket list includes having them to grow up and be strong black women. That's what I want from my bucket list. They're only 3, 2, and 6 months, but they're going to grow up. And they're going to know that they can do anything in the world. My world, when I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, was about as big as coming to Charlotte. I thought Charlotte was a big city. I mean, I didn't know that there were places to go and people to see and opportunities. You know, when I came along, you want to be a teacher? You want to be, you know, a librarian? I mean, who knew that you could be Donna? And I've been over here a lot, and Donna, I want to be Donna. But all of you should be thinking, my daughter, who is your age, is learning every day and teaching me every day. She does a board on herself every 6 months to think about where have I been and where am I going. She lists out the things that she needs to learn. She's assertive. If you follow her on Twitter, oh my God. Some things she says I never even knew she knew and probably shouldn't read about. But she is like you, taking the world and saying, you belong to me, I don't belong to you. And that is the kind of thing that I wish I had, and I want to make sure that my granddaughters have.
Now, we look at you and you've accomplished so much. And so we are inspired by you and look up to you, but I know from where you sit, there are still things that you are aspiring to accomplish. So what are some of those things that still keep you up at night?
I want a boyfriend. I'm looking for a boyfriend. Let's see, all your dads or granddads. I tell you, there's nothing like having someone in your life that could zip up your dress after you put on your Spanx, and it goes all the way to the top. What was the question?
So obviously we're thinking about the boyfriend at night, but what keeps you up at night?
Okay. I tell you, I don't really stay up unless I have done something personally that I think wasn't in my character. So if I'm mean to someone, if I'm short with someone, that's likely to keep me up more than how do we make sure everybody can ride the bus or get on a transit line. It is those personal things that you do that make you stay up at night. Those are the things that worry me the most. If I make a bad decision, I'll recap and I'll redo. But it's when I'm not my true self that I have to I lose that night of sleep, figuring out how to recover from that. So that's it.
All right, so this question came in a couple times already. So, and you shared how you have had to fight against adversity at work, in school, and things of that nature. But the question has come in a few times. But similar to politics, the sports industry, also very male-dominated. Yeah. So what is some advice you would have for the ladies here that are sometimes sitting at the table, but maybe the only woman in the room, or maybe the only black woman in the room? How do you make your voice heard despite the stereotypes? How do you handle different situations in environments like this? What advice would you have for the ladies?
Well, I was just telling Donna that she was telling me about your group and how you're doing this on a quarterly basis, and I said that there are lots of companies that really invest in women to teach these kinds of scenario trainings where you actually practice what you would do and say. And I'm a big believer in doing that, and I hope that you'll see investment in yourself in the ways that sometimes the company's not going to pay. I went back to school multiple times for certifications that I paid for because it was an investment in me. And sometimes you have to do that. But I'm a big believer in scenario training. So I often would say to a group of women, what would happen if someone in the room shuts you down? And that subtle way that they do it, that by, beginning to turn their body language differently, kind of, getting that furrowed brow that says, like, really, are you saying that again? And then what would you do? There are ways to handle these things as a woman that you're going to have to learn, and I'm not going to give you a seminar on that, but I would say one of the very first things is sit up straighter and know that what you've said and what you are doing in that room and space, you didn't get there just to sit there and be wiped out. Now, you have to train some people in your office sometimes, and I can only imagine in the sports industry, it might be actually harder than politics, because this is, the decade of the women in politics right now. But I think it's probably not quite there in the sports industry. It's, I think that it will happen more as men who own these businesses and franchises begin to have, I think about the guy, the Cowboys owner. His two daughters are running that business now. Now, he's the face of it, but they have stuck with him. We're going to have to wait and pool ourselves, our talents, and our money to do things together. And don't be afraid to do that. You know, don't be afraid to go forward and say, I need to break away from this and go out and do something differently on my own. That's what families save their money for, to help you be successful. I would always, again, say, don't cry. I hate to say this. I've been in situations where I have been so upset and red in the face, and then I go right to the bathroom, and I'm not crying because I'm unhappy. I'm so pissed off that all I can do is cry. And when that happens, you know, go to your girl bestie in the department, the one that's going to say, you know, the one that tells you you're not dressed appropriately today, you need to do something about your hair, you know, whatever, that girlfriend, go to that girlfriend and just, whatever your words are, whatever your face needs to do, and then walk back and be strong again. Just keep hanging in there.
Oh, that was good. And then last question from you ladies. She said, when you took office, what was the first thing that you immediately jumped on? You said, this needs to change right now. You were day one as mayor. What was that first thing?
The salmon pink leather chairs in the office had to go. They had been there 7 years, and I took a wipe, you know, those Clorox wipes, and I said, we need new furniture, guys. We got to have some new furniture. Aside from the furniture, which had to be it had to be changed. I'm not a germaphobe either. I mean, it was just nasty. Okay. The very first thing that I had to do was fulfill my commitment to the things that I said. If I am mayor, these things will happen. And that's what I started working on. The affordable housing bond at $50 million didn't happen by accident. I went to a group of, it's called the Charlotte Executive Leadership Council. It's chaired by Brian Moynihan now. I know you guys know someone that's on it. I think his name is Fred. And I went to them and I said, we've made a commitment that we need to have people afford to live in the city. Not just the wealthy need to live here. We need a diverse community. Who wants to live in a place where everyone is wealthy? No. We need to follow through on this commitment to build affordable housing. And that $50 million in bonds was approved by 68% of the public voters. The private sector has put up an additional $50 million. They're doing even more. We just bought our first apartment complex that we're renovating and keeping the rents below 60% of the average median income. There are people living there. We're going to move them around. We're going to repair the place. And for the next 20 years, rents will always be affordable in that building. We have got to move towards that more quickly than we can imagine. You know, we have 1,000 people moving to Charlotte every week. Most of them are like you, millennials, smart, ready to go, and they have jobs. But there are many people that made the city possible that have many barriers. They didn't go to college. They may have a record, a criminal record. They've never learned the soft skill of how to apply for a job. And they must have the chance to participate in what we're doing in the city. And housing, the stress of not having a place to live, can stop someone from ever being able to work and contribute. So housing is important to me. It's always going to be important to me, and that's what we're working on right now. I'll continue to focus on that. We're going to keep it going because we all know, those of us that have had a chance to sit around a table and have your kids join you for dinner and just not worry about that. That means a family can really change and alter the course in their lives. And we need to do that for our people, the people that live in this city every day.
Any final remarks as we close today? You know, we're hungry and we want to make change, positive change in the community. Any final words that you can leave with us that can motivate us and encourage us to get out and be the change that we want to see?
I know most of you work really hard, because I remember the times that I would go out, I'd be at work until 8 on Friday nights. You must think that's why I don't have a boyfriend now. But I would stay on Friday nights. Saturdays, I would come into the office and work. You may not be able to create the ideas to volunteer or to be able to go out into the community in ways that help others. But I would say this, find a way to communicate besides work. Work has a great value, but there's so much more to living in a city than just working. Work hard, but find some time to play and find some time to think. Because you're at the beginning of your career and you're going to get better and better. And if you wake up one day and find yourself sitting in the office on a Friday night and it's 10 o'clock and you don't have a girlfriend to call, or you don't have something that you want to read, or a new thing on the playlist to listen to, then you are not living the life that you deserve. And one day, you need to think about yourself, go to the spa, do all of those things that need to be done. Work is great, but there's a world out beyond work that you need to include your friends, your family, and your faith. So I always say these things. Keep your finances straight. That's what work does. Keep your family close, because they're going to be there when nobody else is. No matter what your beliefs about the people that lift us up, whatever you need, have faith in something that you believe in, that you can see that higher power beyond yourself, and then go have some fun. Remember that. Those are the 4 things that I think are important.
Ladies, give it up for Mayor Vi Lyles. Thank you so much for sitting with us today and for sharing and going deep. I know Donna Julian has some final remarks as well.
Yeah, you just come on? Oh, I know. Perfect, thank you. Fred's gonna join me up here. Let's give another applause for the mayor. This was awesome. So we have a gift for her, but I'm going to read to you the card that I put in the bag. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak to the women of Hornets Sports and Entertainment. We have 65 strong, powerful, beautiful, brilliant, brave, and determined women who want to make a difference, not only professionally, but in the community as well. It means so much to me personally that you are the first speaker of our speaker series. Really, I could cry, but I won't. I love the quote, "Empowered women empower women," and you have empowered us today. Thank you so much. So we have a couple of things. A little birdie told us she might have a favorite Hornets player, so we have a Tony Parker jersey for her. She loves all the Hornets. No. And then also in the bag is a special candle made from Ellerby Candle. Hold on, I want to get it right. Specially made, Queen of the Queen City, made specially for you. So I also want to thank Kay. Where is Kay? Oh, Kay Cunningham, the mayor's chief of staff. Yeah, she's awesome. And obviously Fred, who is always so supportive of our initiatives when it comes to building our women up to be strong, powerful women, and we're proud of that, and thank you, Fred. So for that, we're gonna try to take a group photo of all of us with the mayor. I know it's gonna be, we can make it work. So thank you very much.